welcome back to this workshop on publication of trachoma survey data run by Tropical Data at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Before we get started, we would like to sincerely thank all our partners involved in the running of Tropical Data. We would also like to thank everyone involved in the creation of this workshop, which was run in collaboration with the Ethiopian Health Ministry and funded by RTI International with the Fred Hollows Foundation. Following on from the previous session on writing the introduction and methods, in this session we will be covering how to write the results section. Tropical data surveys produce a lot of data, and there are several components to cover. We have therefore separated the results section into several parts, covering the following: tables for publication, figures for publication, and writing up the results. Before writing anything, planning is really important. It is important to display the findings of your study clearly and accurately so readers can appraise the findings. They must be clearly organized in order to guide the reader through the study. Graphs and maps are useful ways of displaying prevalence data, so visualization should be used where appropriate. The survey data are coded in the Tropical Data database. That means that variable data are not descriptive. For example, males are coded as 1 and females are coded as 2. A table describing what each code means can be found on the Downloads page. When thinking about what to put in your results section, we can refer back to the STROBE Checklist, which we have come across in the Introduction and Methods section. Here are some suggestions for tables, which will cover some of the key data points suggested in the STROBE guidelines. Most of these data points are already calculated by Tropical Data, so much of the work is concerned with identifying the correct data from what is available. Association analyses between TF prevalence and WASH data, and TT prevalence and age and gender data is another possible form of data analysis, but is beyond the scope of this workshop. First up, let's talk about participants and any descriptive data. The list of data shown here in the demo project is an example of the data you will have access to in your own project. For instructions on how to access your data, click on the link listed in the video description and then click on the PDF titled How to Download and Access Data. The blue arrows highlight data files that contain all of the information you will need to make the tables discussed in this section. The first table you should create is one that describes the sample. In the case of trachoma surveys, the target population is all people aged 1 year and over living in selected households. Table 1 should aim to describe how many of the target samples were actually examined, and why some weren't examined. Under the demo, we can see resident counts. We will need to sum the adult, child, and mid figures to get the total examined. Here is an example of Table 1 populated with some demonstrative data. We have included a sample table legend, which provides a descriptive title for the table and a list of definitions of abbreviations used in the table. In this case, EU, which stands for Evaluation Unit. Even if you have defined an abbreviation in the text, the principle here is that a table or figure should be able to stand alone, without the rest of the paper. So any abbreviation used in a table or figure should be specifically defined in the caption to that display item. Now let's move on to the outcome data and the main results. This is a table of the important columns for any table of TF results. Again, in the table caption, we have defined any abbreviations used in it. You can retrieve the data to complete this table from the resident counts and district report spreadsheet. The TF prevalence is in the column titled TF_ADJ. This number can be multiplied by 100 to get a percentage, which most people find to be numbers that are easiest to read. Here is an example of the table populated with relevant data points from a demo dataset. Moving on to Table 3. This is for TT results, and again, abbreviations have been defined in the caption. The data for this table can be found in the Extended Trichiasis report. For describing trichiasis data, it's important to be aware that the definition of TT was updated in 2019. Before 2019, TT was recorded as any eyelash from the upper or lower lid touching the eyeball. After 2019, it was changed to follow the guidelines laid out in the Global Scientific Meeting on Trachoma in 2018. So TT was changed to only record if an eyelash from the upper eyelid touched the eyeball. It is also important to remember that there is a distinction between TT and TT unknown to the health system. So when presenting TT data, it is important to be clear which definition is being used. The surveys using different definitions are denoted by different survey type codes as shown here. Here is the table populated with sample data. The final key data set we can present is the WASH data, the proportion of households in the survey with different water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. Here you can see some of the variable names you will see in the WASH summary from the Tropical Data Downloads page, plus their definitions. We have highlighted the particularly important ones for the table that are in blue here. An important point to note with regards to the WASH variables is that in 2019, Tropical Data made some small modifications to the WASH survey questions, in line with the recommendations made during the Global Scientific Meeting on Trachoma in 2018. The changes affect 6 questions, including 3 new water source options, time to get water, 2 new latrine options, adult defecation facilities, and the presence of hand washing stations. These changes will affect the number of people with improved water sources and sanitation facilities and should be taken into account. Here are some example data put into our table template. Conducting association analyses between disease, age, gender, and WASH factors is beyond the scope of this workshop. If you want to explore these analyses by yourself, you could start working with the individual level data in the MOH approved dataset file, highlighted here. This is the end of this part of the results session. Please go on to the next session to learn how to create figures such as maps and graphs for displaying your data. Thank you very much for watching.